Fresh Air Studios in Plymouth, Devon and Plymouth Chamber of Commerce presents Access to Finance Live. With special thanks to our sponsors. Western Union.
Hello, I'm Christina Wadlow from Western Union Business Solutions. We work with businesses to help them save time and money on their international payments. These could be for importing or exporting goods or services, it could be because they have overseas offices, or maybe they're paying staff in another currency. If you are trading internationally for any reason, speak to us today to find out how we can help you mitigate currency risk and see if you can save some money on your payments. That's Christina Wadlow from Western Union Business Solutions.
Part of the Southwest Local Enterprise Partnership.
Hello, I'm David from the Growth Hub. We're the business support arm for the Heart of Southwest, LEP. Our small team advisors can connect you to grants, advice, guidance and other support to help your business to develop and grow. We're delighted to be a headline sponsor of Access to Finance Live 2021.
And StartPoint Finance.
Hi, my name's Tim Jones from StartPoint Finance. We're commercial finance brokers based in the southwest of England, and our job is to find working capital products for our clients from a wide range of lenders. We deal with high street banks, we deal with foreign banks, we deal with building societies, peer-to-peer lenders, block discounters. There's a wide range of potential solutions which we can find for you to help your business. Thank you.
And a very good morning to you. Welcome to Access to Finance Live 2021. My name is David Fitzgerald and I'm the host today for the first part of the programme, helping you through what is a minefield, gaining access to finance for your business. No matter what size of business, we have experts with us today offering help and advice. And I should point out that all of our experts, as am I, are all socially distanced under the current government guidelines. So let's get on with it. First of all, let's have a message from the Chamber. Here's Stuart Elford.
Hello there, I'm Stuart Elford, Chief Executive of Devon and Plymouth Chamber of Commerce, welcoming you to our live Access to Finance marathon event, featuring top speakers and contributors and packed with information and gems of advice. So you can follow us on Facebook Live and comment on Twitter using the hashtag FinanceLive. Thanks to Fresh Air Studios for producing this fantastic event and for you for joining. Enjoy the day.
Indeed, it is going to be an enjoyable day. So we will let you know a little later on how to contact us via social media. First of all, let's get on with our very first speaker, our very first expert, Tim Jones from StartPoint Finance. He joins us today. And Tim, thank you for the programme. Thank you for joining us for the programme. First of all, your background. How long have you been in the world of finance?
It's too long, David, too long. 30 years.
30 years. Things have changed over that time? Things have got easier or more difficult?
More complicated, definitely. I mean, there's more choice, but it's more complicated.
Okay, right. Where do you want to start? Because I know this is a very difficult path. Gaining access to finance for any business. What is the one gem that you can start us with?
So the picture is changing. We have a new scheme, the Recovery Loan Scheme, which is the government's next initiative to help businesses as they come out of the COVID pandemic. So the civil scheme finished at the end of March and the Recovery Loan Scheme has started. It's simpler, the rules are less complicated, but we are right at the start of how it's going to be interpreted. And a good example of that is the British Business Bank anticipate there being 100 different lenders where you can access the scheme, which might sound a lot, but that's actually less than were offering the Civils loan scheme. And only 19 of those lenders are actually operating now. So we've got a lot of catching up to do and a lot of change in terms of interpretation of the scheme.
Okay, those loans, as you say, loans plural, is there one particular area where you can go to find out how you're going to repay it, how you access the loan, how you actually wade through all the information? Just easy. You're talking to me, Tim, so make it simple.
Well, shall I start with that? It's not just loans. There are 4 different products that the scheme covers, and the background to the scheme is the idea is that businesses that need these funds for recovery that lack the security, the government will offer an 80% guarantee. So the idea is the lender has some additional security that they're going to be paid back. So there are 4 different types of product. There's a loan, a fixed term loan, which I suspect will be the headline. But there's also overdraft can be secured using the recovery loan scheme, invoice finance and asset finance. So you can use the scheme to access new assets to help your business recover and grow as we go into this next period.
Okay. Well, look, there must be some pitfalls here. I know some businesses are going to find it difficult to raise finance. If those businesses are maybe watching today, how do you get finance if you can't get an initial loan?
So the first pitfall is that some lenders won't actually let you apply for a recovery loan. As counterintuitive as that may seem, actually the way it will work with some lenders is you make a normal application for a loan or some other sort of funding, and the bank in underwriting it decides that they can't give you a normal loan, but they could potentially use the recovery loan scheme to give them additional security, so they will make an offer under that recovery loan scheme supported by the government.
You know, bizarrely, today I spoke to a friend of mine who runs a business, hadn't actually used his bounce back loan and it was taken from him. Have you come across that before?
So he hadn't used it?
He hadn't actually used the bounce back loan which he'd applied for. It was resting in his bank. He was merely resting, to quote Father Ted, and it was taken away from him.
Well, the taken away bit doesn't sound like it should happen. I mean, the reality then is there are billions of pounds sat in bank accounts, in company bank accounts, for the what if scenario, and if you're a business that's lucky enough to have that be in that position, depending on when you took it, you had a year's no payments.
Yeah.
So if you took it in May, you're coming up to a point where you have to make your first payment unless you give the whole lot back. If you give the whole lot back, then there's no charge, no interest, no fees, and you return to the position you were at before. There are many businesses, however, that have already spent that bounce back loan or spent part of it, and they now need more funding to be able to move to the next stage.
Okay, right. Here's a question for you. Invoice Finance. Now, I've heard this before. How does it work? I won't say would you recommend it. There must be, again, let's mention the word minefield. It sounds complicated.
So it can be complicated, and it's a financial product that is offered by the banks normally as an alternative to an overdraft. So the best way to start this is if you've been in your overdraft for the entire year, it actually isn't an overdraft. It should be term debt, and the bank will then try and convert you into a term loan. But if you haven't got the security or you can demonstrate the affordability, they may well offer invoice finance, which works if you do business-to-business transactions. So it only works for companies that are selling their goods or services to other companies. And then the invoice that's raised is used as security, so you can instantly draw down a percentage of the value of that invoice. The easiest way of thinking of it is it's like a flexible overdraft that moves up and down depending on the amount of invoices that you have out there. But there are at least 18 different points that you need to make sure you've got the right facility for your business.
And frankly, a lot of businesses go into it not even aware that there's 18 different aspects of the facility that they need to be careful about. It is interesting. It is something that the recovery loan scheme will cover, although that itself is a bit counterintuitive because the invoice itself is the best security you can get. So why you need an 80% government guarantee is beyond me. But the recovery loan scheme works really well with asset finance. And if I can explain why. So if you're a business that needs a new truck because your old truck has broken down, but you're struggling you can't afford to pay for it outright, you can go to a lender and ask for hire purchase to pay for that truck as you use it. And if you've got a government guarantee of 80% of the value of the capital, from the lender's point of view, they're only underwriting 20% of the risk. And with an asset that devalues over a longer period of time, pretty quickly you're into a situation where the bank is covered by the asset. So it's a relatively easy lend. And I think that's where the recovery loan scheme will be really successful. In fact, we've got our first 2 applications are in already with one of the alternative banks under the recovery loan scheme to do exactly that. And these are businesses that are challenged, can't afford to pay for the asset themselves now, but hopefully with the recovery loan scheme, we'll be able to source the funding for them. And to give you another example of how complicated it's going to be, if you go back to it's simpler than the Sybil scheme, but the Sybil scheme, we have situations where we had a client, we had to go to 5 different Sybil's lender before the 5th one said, yes, we'll lend. So it is complicated, and it's going to get more complicated, I'm afraid.
Well, yep, complex, but let's face it, it's helping. It is helping. Actually, that is the final question to you. Has enough been done? What are your thoughts on the future?
So you can never say whether enough's been done, but at least there is a scheme that will help some businesses move through to the next stage. And it's being made aware of it and being made aware that there will be tens of different alternatives than just your bank in terms of helping you through the next stage. And contacting a commercial finance broker to help you through that minefield is for me, it's a no-brainer.
Indeed. First of all, thank you, Tim. And also thank you for what looks like behind you, sponsoring sport. What are the shirts?
We love local sport. Ladies hockey, cricket, rugby, football. Probably all the team either play or used to play. So we love local sport.
Well, that's the main thing. You're supporting the community. If people want to get in touch with you, Tim, how do we do it?
The easiest way is go on the website. So it's Startpoint Finance. We're pretty simple to find. We're all over social media. Our fee, we have no fees. We get paid by the bank for a successful transaction, so it costs nothing to get in touch with us. Okay.
And if there's one product you would just say, now this is the one to go for at the moment, one particular way forward, what would it be?
David, it's not that simple.
With 18 choices, pick one.
Depends on the circumstances. I think asset finance with the recovery loan scheme is going to be really good. But people will need cash as well, so it just depends. Depends on the circumstances. The simple thing is get advice.
Brilliant. Tim, sound advice. Thank you so much indeed for joining us today. Speak to you soon. Brilliant. Access to Finance Live. Once again, you can contact us. We'll let you know how to get on with social media. We've got Jasmine through the glass today. She'll be reading your messages. Hashtag Finance Live, please, if you're going on to Twitter. Let's move on to our next guest. We hope that this is going to be of some use today. I'm only the first presenter for what's going to be several hours of basically unlocking the way to getting finance for your company. Let's join Allison Watts from Thomas Westcott Chartered Accountants. Allison, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, now you're the lady. What is in the know? First of all, the market. Is it a difficult place? I've got to ask. Things like raising debt finance, are quite simply banks open at the moment to that sort of deal?
Well, they are all saying they're open for debt finance at the moment. And I think Tim's obviously spent quite a lot of time talking about the recovery schemes that are in place, which obviously all the banks are offering. But in terms of traditional sort of debt finance outside of the sort of emergency routes at the moment, yeah, the banks are saying that they are open. But I do know that businesses are still struggling to raise finance. So it's all about really looking around. The market has opened up. There's a lot more challenger banks around. that have grown in the last 10 years and certainly in the last couple of years. So I think, it's not easy to raise finance. It's all about getting prepared and really looking around and looking at all the different options and not just sort of traditional overdrafts, etc.
Okay. Well, what other financial packages, what other finance is out there at the moment? The access to working capital, it is difficult. If you don't want to go down the bank route, where else would you suggest?
Yeah, well, I think Tim may probably alluded to it as well. I mean, there's a lot of other products around now, and they have developed quite a bit over the last few years, and there's a lot more players in the market. So invoice financing, using your invoices and your customers and your sales to raise and finance is a key way forward, especially for businesses who are growing, and their overdraft won't really support them on that. So that's a really good route forward. I mean, it is potentially could be more expensive, but at the end of the day, it's better to get the finance and help you grow than sort of get stifled by not being able to raise the finance. Asset-based lending is an ABL, which is where you're using all your assets in your business to raise your finance. There's been a big growth in that sector as well, and a lot more players in that market. And they tend to look at all your assets in your business, and it normally starts with you having an invoice finance discounting line with them first, but then they can top that up by looking at if you've got plant and equipment that's not got any finance against it, if you've got stock that wouldn't necessarily be financed, they can bring that in. So they actually broaden the pot for you in terms of what they can secure the lending against. Obviously, in terms of peer-to-peer, there's a lot of more peer-to-peer lending around. That's actually where you're not going to the bank, you're going to individuals who are lending you the money through an online business. And that, I think, can be a route for certain businesses who can't get into the traditional banking routes.
Well,
as I say, all these challenger banks are out there. There's a lot, and I was looking at them on the website, the other day, and there's lots of new names popping up. So I think it's worth, as I say, it's very much worth having a good research around.
A lot of finance is available, but of course you've got to temper it with the fact of your own turnover. I'm guessing as a chartered accountant, you can offer advice. You can actually look at the accounts and say, okay, don't go mad, but this is what is available. It's easy access to you as well at the moment.
So again, in terms of the
when a company comes to you and says, look, we need this, we've been offered, I don't know, 50, 60,000, there is, hold it. Yeah. You've got to pay it back at some point.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So the key thing with any finance that you raise is you've got to, especially with debt finance, equity is different, we'll come on to that later, is you've got to pay that back. And and it's looking at a cash flow and a forecast. I mean, when you're going for the finance, you need to support that with a business plan or just some basic cash flows to show that your business is going to generate the profits to pay back or generate the cash which comes from the profits. So it's not all about the turnover, and it's not actually just all about the profit. It's actually you've got to look at what cash you're generating, because that's what you're going to have to use to pay back your loan or keep your overdraft within this facility. A lot of businesses think it's all, if I've got the security, like I've got an asset, I can give the bank security. That's all I need to do. From the bank's point of view, it's all about serviceability. As you said, it's about paying back that loan, because they don't want to have to sell your asset to get their money back. Yep. Their first call is for you to pay out of your business profits. So yeah, we can look at a business and say, actually, looking at your balance sheet and what your profits are, you shouldn't really borrow more than X or Y, unless you've got a lot of growth coming, and then that's a different scenarios.
Of course. Listen, we're all in this together. It's the same common problem for a lot of businesses. Yeah,
absolutely, yeah. And I think one of the things that I was going to talk about as well is that is looking at your own internal financing, because the ideal world would be that you never have to go to a third party and get any financing, that you can actually generate your own cash flow to do what you want to do in your business. So looking after your internal cash flow is also a really important piece of advice for businesses. And it's easier said than done, and it can easily slip. And you take your eye off the ball and suddenly your customers aren't paying you for like 3 months. That has a massive impact on your cash flow. So there are quite a few tips and things to really focus yourself back on your internal cash.
I know it's a difficult situation. Internal cash flow is absolutely vital. I'm not going to go into specific details here, but what is the general mood with some of your clients? Is there light at the end of the tunnel? Are you coming across clients are saying, actually, things could get better?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, things could get better. And we're seeing that with some clients where they're, got a client who's reopened his business now, and actually the demand for his product services is still there, and the people are coming back in the business, the people are coming back in. So there is light at the end of the tunnel, but it's about really managing what you've got at the moment and being very careful about, cash is king, always is. And I think at this time, and actually that history tells us that businesses coming out of a sort of recessionary reduced level of trading and going back into a trading sort of spike is actually where businesses fail, because they haven't got that cash flow to actually support the growth that they're looking for. So it is a very critical time, but there is light at the end of the tunnel, and we're seeing some businesses, some have done pretty well through the pandemic, and others are actually beginning to start to see things moving again now, which is great news.
Well, as a chartered accountant, as a person who looks through the books, is there one thing that the government could do, that business could do in general? Is there one thing that you would say that'd be a great idea just to keep this rebirth going?
Well, I think it is the support from the government. I think it is about supporting and giving people access to cash, which they can then manage and don't have to pay back quickly. So I think, where there are more schemes that could be brought in, probably. I think there are still some businesses who may be missing out and don't qualify for some of these schemes. So I think it's maybe looking at all the different types of businesses and seeing something else we can put in place for them.
Rather like our last guest, Tim, there, you can guide your clients towards the government websites, all the information, all the details, all the pay.
Yeah.
And you're taking on things like pay structure as well?
Yeah. Sorry.
You are taking on things like pay structure. You're advising, you're doing the cash flow, the pay, and basically also the furloughing as well. You can advise on all of that.
Yeah, we give advice on all of that. Yes, that all the schemes that are available, whether it's the business rates, say the furlough scheme, the recovery loans, we can help with all of those routes to support for clients. And as Tim had said, a lot of clients have taken those bounce back loans and got them sitting there for the what if, which is good, because you don't know what's going to happen the next few months. So they may not have used it. But I was interested, I heard that you said, you had somebody who said that it was being pulled back from them. I haven't heard that happen before, but that's certainly not a good.
No, that was just one individual who just mentioned it to me, and I thought I'd raise it today. I haven't double-checked.
I haven't heard of that. I think I would say that's wrong, really. I mean, it's there for those times when things may get hard. So pulling it back if it's not being used, I don't think is a very good. I think that's certainly something the government shouldn't allow to happen.
That bizarre situation. I've got to ask, Thomas Westcott's a name that has grown and grown over the last couple of years. You're doing well as a company. You are not expanding at the moment, but will think of doing so in the future?
Yeah. Well, actually, we have just had some expansion ourselves. We took over, or we merged with another firm down in Plymouth. And you think now, I lose track of time, don't you, in the current, just a couple of months ago. So that's showing that we are, as a firm, expanding. We know that our services are going to be needed across the Southwest, so we're always looking for opportunities to expand as a business. Things are going well. I mean, it's tough for everybody out there, but I think with good management, sound management and good people, you can push through, as it were.
Brilliant. For the moment, Allison from Thomas Westcott, thank you so much indeed for joining us today.
Okay. Great. Yeah. Thanks
Bye-bye.
very much.
So that's Allison there from Thomas Westcott Chartered Accountants. Let's take a look at social media. You can contact us via social media. Let's go over to a heavily caged Jasmine. She's in a complete glass cage over here.
Yes, thanks, Fitz. Morning, everyone. I'm Jasmine Pegler, and I'm going to be watching all of your social media feeds today. We've already had quite a few comments come in so far, so let's take a look. We have Jim Knight from JK Financial Solutions saying, fantastic point from Starpoint Finance to make sure that businesses don't miss the government support deadlines, and great advice for smaller companies that are unable to get a loan during the current circumstances. Thanks, Jim. We also have Abdul-Wadud13 on Twitter, who says, I'm currently studying my Masters in Economics at Marjons University, and I'm busy taking notes on today's expo. Great watch. #Finance Live. Thanks for all your comments today, guys, and here's how you can get in touch.
Send us your comments by adding them to the conversation on our Facebook Live page, or tweet us using the hashtag #FinanceLive. Follow the Devon and Plymouth Chamber of Commerce on Twitter at @chamber_Devon.
Thank you very much indeed for contacting us. Keep the messages coming in. This programme is dedicated basically to gaining a little more confidence in the world of finance. It's been pretty rough over the last couple of months. Let's move on to our next guest. And it's the Heart of the Southwest Growth Hub, which provides a wealth of support for businesses throughout the region. Here to tell us a little bit more about the situation is David Hind. David, good morning to you. David, I've got to ask you, what is a growth hub?
Well, it's a good starting point question, because if anyone out there puts growth hub into Google, you'll probably get a whole long list, because actually there's lots of growth hubs, 38 around the country. We're part of a growth hub network then, each associated with a local area. We're the growth hub for Devon, Plymouth, Somerset and Torbay. That's our area. We are the Heart of Southwest growth hub. So what growth hubs are and do then is growth hubs are kind of like the business support arm of local enterprise partnerships. Mm-hmm. They join up national and local business support to make it easier really for businesses to find and access what you need actually to develop and grow, whether that's grants, advice, a bit of guidance, or some particular workshop or help for you in your business. Whatever's out there, the government, nationally or locally, are putting money into to help you.
Basically, you're working as a group to help other groups. We can't do this alone. We've got to band together.
Yeah, a bit of a connector, really. So we'll have conversations with business owners and managers, find out a little bit about you and your business, what you might need, what you're looking for, what's going to help you, and connect you with guidance and advice. So particularly at the minute, there's a lot, we're taking a lot of calls about COVID-related grants and support, and our team can help you kind of navigate the whole list of options and guides, whether it's restart grants or loans, and just get you to where you need to be and get you the information you need to take that forward.
Okay, now before we get into talking specifically on what services you can offer, can I just ask you, can you tell me about the LEP and how chamber members can get involved? In fact, first of all, what is LEP?
Yeah, LEP, it stands for Local Enterprise Partnership. So LEPs, or Local Enterprise Partnerships, were set up some time ago, actually, the first one around 2010, set up at the behest of government. The private and public sector partnerships, really private sector led partnerships, and they're there to promote local economic growth. So they're probably really focused on strategy, I suppose, strategic partnership. They're there to influence government investment in local areas. They're there to try and shape and drive economic growth in local areas, be that connection between government and local businesses, and really tell government where they need to invest their money and what they need to do to make a difference to this area.
Are they listening? Do you know they're listening? That's the main thing. You can tell government, but do they come back?
Well, we do get feedback, yeah, absolutely. And for chamber members, people out there, really the best way for you to engage, or the best ways for you to engage with the LEP is, take a look at their website, the Heart of Southwest LEP. If you put that into your search engine, it'll come up. Take a look at what they're up to. A particular thing to catch your eye on right now, relevant right now, is a Building Back Better plan, a plan they've put in front of government to say, well, okay, this is what this region needs to help businesses not just recover from COVID impacts, but recover even better than we were before. So you can take a look at that on the website. I'm sure we can send you links if anyone's interested as well. There's a monthly newsletter that you can sign up for that keeps you in touch with what the LEP's up to, where money's been investment, what new developments are on the horizon, and all that kind of thing. And of course, the chamber member, you're already very well connected into the LEP. The chamber is a key stakeholder represented on the LEP boards. So, tell your chamber, speak to your chamber rep about what you need as a business, what's going to make a difference to you, and they'll absolutely push hard and push that message up through the LEP and up to government for you.
What sort of businesses can you help? Any size business?
Yeah, any business, any size, any sector. We're focused really on businesses that are in this area of Devon, some of the Plymouth and Torbay, but yes, any businesses is good for us. When we connect you to a particular grant or scheme, you'll usually find that those grants have eligibility criteria or suitability criteria. So you may not be eligible for everything that's out there, but we always find something for you and your business, whether it's guidance and a bit of advice at the very least. But there's a lot of free workshops out there as well at the minute that'd be really useful to you, as well as some free advice.
Well, we've already heard from Tim earlier on about the dozens, if not, see what he mentioned, 18 different styles of loans at the moment. You can also guide people through their access to finance?
Yeah, so what we'll tend to do is we've got a team of business advisors, a small team that speak to businesses day in, day out over the phone, and we'll listen to what you need. So if we get a question about grants, for example, we can do grant searches for you, which is very, very popular at the moment. And we'll also take a look at our own knowledge bank, our own website, and navigate through all the different options and find the one that's right for you, the one that meets your needs, the grant that you might be eligible for. So we can navigate the kind of complex landscape, the 18 options there that you mentioned, and actually there's lots of other guidance and information and support out there that can be really difficult for businesses to get to the bottom of if you're trying to find it yourself or from your own online searches.
Well, I've got to ask, what sort of businesses, what sort of people are contacting you at the moment, without going into specific details? Who is contacting you and what are their issues?
Yeah, so we've had a huge amount of inquiries over the last 12 months, some really difficult calls, particularly last year with many businesses struggling to manage the impacts of COVID on their business and on their staff. So my team spent a lot of time actually trying to find some of the grants and loans and tax breaks and everything else that the businesses can look at to navigate through that period. What we're seeing now is probably more green shoots, actually, a little bit more encouraging, more businesses getting in touch with us, looking at getting back on their feet and growing again, particularly smaller businesses, I'd say, really at the moment, probably 10 employees or less tends to be kind of the main sort of size of business that gets in touch with us and has been recently. Probably, particularly over the last 6 months, we've seen a big surge in startup businesses,
right?
People looking to start up a new enterprise, either from home or from a workspace. I guess probably partly due to personal circumstances changing and partly due to people reevaluating what they want to do, I suppose, during lockdown periods. So startup businesses is a big drive at the moment, and we've certainly got guides and business plan templates and cash flow templates and things that can help you get up and get your business going.
I suppose if you can start a business now, it's going to be successful. That's at the very worst time. I know it's probably not the right attitude, but that must be out there.
Yeah, I think so. It really is a mixed picture. You may have heard already this morning, many businesses are sort of got through that stabilization period, are starting to reopen, and we've got tools and guides. If you're still looking at what you need to do to reopen safely, we've got Better Business for All partnership produced toolkits, really high quality, that can guide you through. But actually, we're also seeing a lot of businesses now that are looking forward. They're seeing things opening up. They're seeing customers and coming back to them. They're seeing tourists coming back to us down here in the lovely Southwest, and starting to look really positive about the future and maybe how they can pivot or reshape their business, I guess, to work their way through the ongoing difficulties.
Well, let's hope there is a great future ahead of us. The weather's with us at the moment. As you mentioned, tourism, one of our most important access to finance for the county. Can I just ask you, how do we get in touch with you?
Yeah, so several ways. One of the easiest ways for lots of people is to go into our Growth Hub website. If you put Growth Hub Plymouth or Growth Hub Devon, will come up top of the list. Or if you want to type out the really long name, it's heartofswgrowthhub.co.uk. If you go on there, the homepage pops up. You can take a look yourself, actually, about our latest news. We've got a calendar of events and workshops, free events and workshops you can book yourself onto. But also right in the middle of the page is a Get in Touch bar. If you click on that, fill our online form, tell us what your sort of support you're looking for, and one of my team will get back in touch with you. So that's a really great way to get in touch. You can also call us. I shall give you the telephone number, which is 03456 047 047. Just give that number a call and speak directly to one of our advisors. And there's also an email address you can contact it on as well. Again, really long name, info@heartofswgrowthhub.co.uk. Any of those means is great for us.
David, thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. Bye-bye. David Hine there from the South West Growth Hub. Well, it's been a busy programme so far. We're going to continue in a few moments' time. We're going to be talking to Western Union Business Solutions, giving us some indication on how you can trade internationally. That in a few moments.
Time to grab yourself a cuppa. Access to Finance Live continues after the break. The Devon and Plymouth Chamber of Commerce Golf Day is to be hosted by Borrington Park Golf Club on Wednesday the 30th of June in association with Fraser Nash Consultancy and supporting Jeremiah's Journey. Show off your skills to colleagues while you connect with other businesses and maybe even win a prize. Your day includes bacon rolls before you tee off and a fabulous barbecue once you've sunk your last putt. The day is rounded off with a charity auction and raffle. Entry per team of 4 is just £190. To book or to sponsor a hole, visit the events page at devonchamber.co.uk.
In Conversation With, the new talk show from Devon and Plymouth Chamber of Commerce.
Hello there, I'm Stuart Elford, Chief Executive of Devon and Plymouth Chamber of Commerce, and welcome to another podcast edition of In Conversation With. I suppose it's not an interview, it's a chat, isn't it?
I don't know. It could become an interview later. Keep looking into the eyes.
Keep looking into the eyes. Is it true you really were in a shower scene advert for a famous soap brand?
Do you know what? Sadly it is, but I have no regret.
Managed to smash my face up, but everybody is kind.
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh, but
no, that's fine.
You will always be known as the man who had his hand up Jos Honeybell.
We really do argue, and I don't mean just, professionally, I would say unprofessionally as well.
So it's completely at odds with the 2 years training I'd had just learning how to drive a warship, where you're coached every step of the way.
People introduced me as, this chap's been in business 30 years, and the first thing he said to me was, you've done well to last 30 days, let alone 30 years.
Meeting, developing new relationships with new people.
This is a challenge, but maybe there's opportunity here as well.
It's when you get your first client and the first bit of money comes into the bank.
So the truth is, you don't really switch off. I don't really switch off. But I'm not doing this on my own.
It just really cracked open my head about what could I achieve.
If we are better at telling our story, we'll inspire more people, we'll attract more visitors, we'll attract more investment.
We are a great place for industry, we're a great place to bring up a family, we're a great place to visit, we're a great place to stay.
Lots of wagtail poop everywhere and the car alarm going off.
Well, I can't think of a better way to end this interview than talking about bird poop, but no.
Yes. In Conversation With, the new talk show from Devon and Plymouth Chamber of Commerce. Search for Devon Chamber In Conversation With on Apple iTunes podcasts, Spotify and more.
Good morning once again. Thank you for watching. A lot of people are watching on Facebook Live and also in LinkedIn. And those are the two platforms where you can raise questions for our experts today. We'd be delighted to pass them on to Jasmine. She will be reading out questions a little bit later on. So if you are at all concerned about accessing finance and you want to gain information from our experts, put a question on Facebook Live or on LinkedIn now. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. Now, Western Union. Western Union help businesses trade internationally, and here to tell us a little bit more about this is Chris Weeks. Chris, a very good morning to you.
Morning.
First of all, very familiar name, but I know very little about Western Union. Explain.
Yeah, so Western Union provide both obviously retail and and business services as well. What we're hoping to discuss today is the business services side, and essentially what Western Union can help create strategies, can give you information and potentially advice as well with regards to trading internationally and protecting those potential currency flows.
Okay, I've been given some incredible questions here. You are going to have to guide me through this section of English, okay? Can I just read you what's being put down? How can businesses take a proactive approach to identify, manage, and where possible, mitigate FX volatility risk? In English, please. Wow, yes.
Indeed. Well, I think that the key word to pull out of there is risks. And, with FX or foreign currency decisions, they can be easy or they can be potentially difficult as well. And, that can be attributed to the clarity and the understanding of the flows, really, and where that exposure comes from. Are they standard flows, for example? Are they reliable? Is it a specific tender where there is a foreign currency element to that? Or is it a CapEx purchase or expenditure, for example? But when we're looking at proactivity, I think really that can be attributed to the planning and the accurate forecasting where possible to be able to make that decision. And when I'm speaking to my clients of late recently, a lot of clients are liaising with suppliers, asking for certainty of costs where appropriate, or certainty of shipment timeframes, for example, going forward, and reviewing client contracts, for example, or tenders or cash flow patterns. But I think the reality is that any provider that you or your clients work with should really know the mandate which is being worked within, and that really all comes down to that understanding piece. Is any budget or target rates achievable? Is the project won, or is it in almost in a tender phase still? And what is the risk appetite of the client and the business as a whole, and how much risk can that business tolerate? And really then just going forward to understand market risk events and how could they really impact, unprotected cash flows.
Okay, well, through all that, are there products? What products are there with you? How do you protect costs and budget rates? This is a minefield. I know we've mentioned that term over and over again today, but please tell me, how can you assist a company?
Yeah, from a support perspective, within our business specifically, strategy is created really collaboratively, and we break down that consultation process into 4 steps, which the first one is that understanding piece I discussed. So understanding the currency exposures, the risk, the appetite, and the experience of the person that we're dealing with. Identifying is the second section. So identifying the business goals. What objectives are there? Are there any inefficiencies within that risk management process or payment process, for example? Then we go forward to potentially execute, and that execution may be just a product. It may be a strategy which incorporates 2 or 3 different products to meet a bespoke objective of a client. And then really the reviewing stage, which is, the really important point, and it's the ongoing review, and it's set by the client. And the review is of the strategy performance and really to realign on the business requirements. Things change, and things change very quickly within business environments. Now, you asked regarding products and what products are available. And, I think you used the word kind of a minefield, really, in terms of the different types of things out there which can protect your business. And many solutions exist to do that. A lot of people on this webinar today and on this event will have seen some of those tools and instruments, but volatility has been really high of late. And, when we're talking about volatility, the market is 2-directional. We've seen the markets come down significantly. We've seen them rise significantly over a short time frame. And that can really lead to a conundrum of how to protect but equally not limit the business from positive movements in the market. And that really may come down to the design of the strategy. Now, it's probably inappropriate today to discuss specific products in this environment.
Okay.
But, in a world of unenviable business uncertainty where the environment is really competitive and FX movements can really make a significant impact on bottom lines, then decisions around currency can be a really lonely place to be. Ideally, a strategy shouldn't encompass an all or nothing approach, but really should be tied to a specific business objective or measurable. And, in a normative world, a strategy should be robust enough to protect, but flexible enough to benefit from positive movements should that occur as well.
Okay, overly simplistic question here. How is trading internationally doing? Obviously, there have been a few hurdles, should we say, over the last couple of years. How is business for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's when we're talking about business specifically, I think, one of the main areas really, if I can almost paraphrase what you discussed there, which is, why should business protect themselves? What reasons or rationale is there to be able to do that right now? And, I've talked a lot about uncertainty on here, and we've had a significant amount of it of late. And in some ways, I suppose you can describe FX and some FX products as almost like an insurance policy. Now, why do we take insurance? And that is to mitigate risks and avoid an unplanned event, which could be potentially critical to businesses. And really, for some people and for some businesses, currency can be as impactful as this. And I think now more than ever, we need certainty of trading, certainty of profits, certainty of costs, and certainty of outcomes. And, whatever's happening in the world right now, we do know for sure in the recent history that, there's a potential unforecastable or unplanned event around the corner. And FX, in my opinion, is one variable risk that in a lot of instances can and should be mitigated.
What sort of businesses are using you in the Southwest?
So we get a mixture of businesses, really. Businesses from all ends of the spectrum. We get service-led businesses, we get product design and manufacturing businesses. But essentially, if a business has got a international presence, and by that international presence, that leads to additional risk within the business in the form of foreign currency, for example, then that business is a business that we can potentially help. But again, taking it back to the beginning question that you asked around kind of proactive approaches and what clients can do, it's really that understanding piece. And both me and my team spend a lot of time understanding businesses, understanding objectives, and really creating that bespoke solution for them.
Okay, Devon and Plymouth Chamber members are watching, obviously, on this. Is there a benefit for members and Western Union? Do you work together closely?
Yeah, we do work together closely. In terms of benefit-wise, obviously, your members have access to services within Western Union that I've discussed, and that can be the product suite of services that we have on a generic basis, or equally, if any of your members today are watching this and actually think, I could really do with a quick conversation, nothing committal, but, a brief conversation around what we can do and helping them understand what's going on with regards to currency in the environment, then that's something we can set up on a one-on-one basis. And that's not a costed service. That's not something that we charge a premium for. However, it does allow some one-to-one time with a potential expert in that area where we can have that conversation.
Okay, I'm guessing that things were a little quiet, shall we say, over the last 18 months. There have been hurdles put up. What's your view of the future?
It's a very difficult one. And, sometimes when we're talking about the word future, it can almost send shivers down my spine when we're thinking about trying to forecast things, given everything that's happened of late. But I'm positive. I'm personally positive, and the clients that I'm speaking to are positive. And, you mentioned there about it being relatively quiet over the last 18 months. And actually, conversely, within Western Union, it's been relatively busy when we're speaking to clients. There may not be a scenario where a client has a call to action to do immediately. However, that planning phase, and a lot of our clients have been taking the last 18 months as I suppose a review, a retrospective review of what's happened, and to ensure that plans and solutions are in place going forward, that if this were to come around the corner again, that it wouldn't have such an impactful event on the business.
Okay, finally, if people want to talk, how do they get in touch with you?
So we will provide separate contact details as well as required. Anyone can contact me directly. I'm the head of hedging UK for Western Union. So either myself or any of my team will be able to deal with clients directly on a one-to-one basis. They can contact me through chris.weeks, that's chris.week, K for Kilo, S for Sierra, at westernunion.com. Or they also have a regional contact specific for the Devon Chamber in Cameron Hunter, and that would be cameron.hunter@westernunion.com.
Chris, for the moment, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you, David.
Chris Weeks there from Western Union. We must press on. Don't forget, if you're on the Facebook Live platform or LinkedIn, send a message, get in touch with us, and we'll pass those on to Jasmine. Our next guest is from Swig Finance. Lovely name, Swig. Hello to Claire Lenehan-Thomas. Claire, good morning.
Good morning, David. How are you?
Not too bad. First of all, Swig. What does Swig stand for?
So Swig stands for Southwest Investment Group.
Right. Okay. Well, that more or less sums up what you do. Is that
Absolutely.
what you do?
Yes. So yes, we do. So we support SMEs, startups, and businesses all through their growth trajectory across the Southwest. So we are a CDFI, so we're looking to support businesses that are looking to grow and have either a social, environmental, community impact in their region as well. So some of the businesses we support are completely started new, obviously, in the last year. With the pandemic, there's been lots of innovation, lots of people having changes in job situations and being able to start up businesses. So we've been helping an awful lot of them with the startup loan scheme, which does up to 25,000, which is a personal loan for business purposes. And then we also have our own Swig loans, which help businesses grow and develop. So obviously in the last year, it's been very focused on the CBILS funding. And obviously we are continuing that through with the recovery loan scheme.
Okay. What questions are you being asked? I've got questions down here. How do you differ from traditional lenders? What sort of services do you provide? What guarantees are there? Is there ever a guarantee these days? How would you... what sort of clients are coming to you at the moment, and with what issues?
Yeah, so we're seeing a real range. We support a real range of different businesses. Obviously, at the moment, it's very much focused on either growth. There's sort of two camps. There's either businesses that have been affected negatively by the pandemic and either have not been trading or partially trading and looking for support through that cycle. Or the other side of it is businesses, and there is a subsector of businesses that have actually done really well all through the pandemic. So we've been helping them grow, helping them invest, whether that's in people, in premises, or new product development. So there's certainly two camps at the moment, but certainly the question we get asked is, can we help?
Yeah.
If we've been turned down from somewhere else, how can we help, and what might that look like?
Okay, well, if somebody is coming to you for help, what do they need to do before? Because you need to prepare before they actually speak to you, I'm guessing.
Yes, ideally. We're always open to have a conversation, and indeed we like to think that we speak to clients whatever stage they are with their applications for finance, whether that's with us or other lenders, because often people just need to pick up the phone and maybe chat through. They don't know often what they need to apply for finance, but certainly there's quite a few things that people can prepare, businesses can get in line before they approach a lender, and it will help them go through the process more smoothly. So there's a couple of different things. Obviously, we're going to look for your business information and your finances. So it's really important that business owners, know their numbers, have their latest accounts and management information available and up to date. Some information obviously on them and their passion and energy behind the business. Also importantly, credit reports. Now this is something that definitely every person and business owner should be doing is checking their own personal credit reports, so that doesn't prevent you from moving forward with an application, because quite often there's lots of easy things you can do to improve that score, and just check for any errors. Sometimes it can just be as simple as a wrong address on there. So we encourage everybody to do those checks and come to us as ready as they can be, although obviously that doesn't always happen in practice, but there's certainly as much information as you can collate will help your application progress with any lender.
Okay. If you have been declined before, is that it? Or can you help? Can you slightly move the goalposts?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we tend to help businesses, like I say, that are looking to grow, but perhaps haven't been able to secure traditional lending for whatever reason. And obviously there's a whole host of reasons that businesses can be declined. So absolutely, if they've not been able to access traditional finance, then they definitely should come to us. If you've been declined elsewhere, it means that we can possibly help. Quite often businesses might be declined if they haven't yet got a big enough asset base for traditional lenders to secure against, or perhaps if they're very early growth in their business cycle, it might be a lot of their lending is actually projection led or future focused. And that is something that we can help with, because we look at not just the historical basis of the business, but also looking forward and looking at what they're hoping to achieve. And obviously in the current environment, reasons and volumes of declines have sort of lifted a bit. And so we're able to come in and actually look at the entire picture for a business, and take that into account when we make our decision.
Okay, well, what is the current environment like? Are you busy at the moment?
Yes, yes, we are busy. Obviously, we've recently had the CBILS, the Corona Business Interruption Loan Scheme deadline. So there's been a lot of businesses that were obviously busy getting their applications in for that. We move out of that environment and moving forward with the recovery loan scheme. Like I said earlier, there's very much two sorts of businesses that perhaps we're seeing at the moment, where either they are still looking to survive and trade out of the pandemic if they've not been trading or had severe impacts to their income, or where they've actually been thriving, in which case they're in a position that they need investment for growth. So we are very busy having conversations with all sizes of businesses to support them through that, with obviously CBILS has now ended, but moving that forward with our lending as usual and trying to get businesses and obviously ourselves into more business as usual financial terms.
Okay, taking into consideration what you've seen and the clients you're dealing with, are you confident about the future?
Oh, good question.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yes, I think there's lots to be confident about. I think it's very difficult, isn't it, to say. You can never sort of say like we're through the worst of it, just in case we're not. No. But I think there's so much opportunity, certainly from what I've seen in the Southwest. I think one of the huge positives coming out of the pandemic is this innovation. There have been lots of businesses, lots of areas for growth, and lots of new opportunities to come out of it. And certainly as we see things opening up and trade picking up, we're going to see that improve as well. And if anything, what we're seeing with businesses is they are really taking it in their stride. They've seen this as an opportunity to see how can they diversify their income, how can they make their businesses more resilient, and how can they look at their structures, their business structures and processes to really set them up for growth. So I think there's lots to be excited about. Hopefully the worst of it, as we would say, is behind us and businesses can really look forward to having those growth trajectories.
Well, it's a very positive attitude, and I'm guessing SWIG could be a great indicator of how the general business community is going. What sort of issues have you come across? What sort of clients have come to you?
Yeah, I mean, we get a whole range. So, I wouldn't say that there's any type of industry or sector that we haven't seen. And I think that's one of our sort of benefits, even, across the Southwest. Of different businesses. Obviously in the Southwest we're quite heavy on retail and hospitality and tourism, but as I say, there's lots of other sectors that we support, and really the only ones that as us ourselves at SWIG we aren't able to do is business development and business investment, property investment, which obviously there are lots of other funders out there that are able to accommodate that. But yeah, we're seeing all types of businesses, which is lovely to see. We're not seeing just a focus in one particular sector, and indeed we're able to support all those additional sectors and different types of industries.
Okay, and you're happy to hear from any member of Devon and Plymouth Chamber?
Yes, absolutely.
Or did
yes.
anyone, I'm guessing.
Yeah, please do reach out if you've got any questions, wherever you're at in terms of your own business cycle throughout the pandemic, what you're looking to do. If you've had trouble accessing finance or meeting your full requirements, that's another thing we see a lot as well. So please, do reach out to me. My contact information, I think, is being shared, but you can find it on the website as well, or find me on LinkedIn. And I'm happy to chat through your business and see how we might be able to support you.
Just reading the banner behind you, you are right across the southwest, as far as the Isles of Scilly.
Yes, absolutely. So that's a bit nearer to me. I'm based in Cornwall. So yes, we do go all the way to the Isles of Scilly, and obviously then all the way back the other track from me direction up to sort of Gloucester and that direction. So we really do cover the full breadth, and we've got a range of business managers based in all different locations. Right. Obviously, with the pandemic, we've been able to be quite flexible in terms of doing things online and all this virtual side, but we do have business managers based all across the patch.
Claire, for the moment, thank you very much indeed for joining us today.
Thank you, David. Lovely to speak with you.
And you, Swig Finance there, Claire. So it has been a busy day. Please get in touch with us via those social media platforms, both LinkedIn and, of course, Facebook. In fact, let's find out what messages have been coming in, because Jasmine is looking at the messages. Jasmine.
Yes, hello again, everyone. Who knew finance could be this interesting, eh? And I can tell that you guys are all enjoying it too from your social media comments, so let's take a look. We've got Lisa and Dan Sobey on Facebook that say we were lucky enough to have support from the Growth Hub and they were excellent. We've also had Lisa Brammer from PKF Francis Clark, who say on Twitter, production quality for Devon Chamber, #FinanceLive is superb. So professional, great speakers too. Good work, Fresh Air Studios. Thank you so much, Lisa. We do appreciate that. We've also had a message from Dan from Crown Hill, who says it's really good, but where's Gus Honeybun? I'm not sure who that is, so I think Fitz might have to explain that one to me. But yeah, please do let us know if you do have any comments on social media, guys. If we don't get to them today, we will make sure to get back to you. So here's how you can get in touch.
Send us your comments by adding them to the conversation on our Facebook Live page, or tweet us using the hashtag #FinanceLive. Follow the Devon and Plymouth Chamber of Commerce on Twitter @chamber_Devon.
The alarming thing is, on the 29th of April, in a few weeks' time, Gus Honeybun will be 60, which I find terrifying. But then again, I'll be 60 in January. Such is life. Right, that's almost it from me. In the next hour, Finance Live, Access to Finance, will be brought to you once again by Allison Watts from Thomas Westcott, and also Tim Jones from Start Point Finance. And our presenter will be Paul Philpott. All it is left for me to say is thank you for joining us. And I'm just looking at the clock at the moment. I am 3 hours away from a haircut. I am so excited. Thank you for joining us.
From Fresh Air Studios in Plymouth, Devon and Plymouth Chamber of Commerce presents Access to Finance Live. With special thanks to our sponsors. Western Union.
Hello, I'm Christina Wadlow from Western Union Business Solutions. We work with businesses to help them save time and money on their international payments. These could be for importing or exporting goods or services, it could be because they have overseas offices, or maybe they're paying staff in another currency. If you are trading internationally for any reason, speak to us today to find out how we can help you mitigate currency risk and see if you can save some money on your payments. That's Christina Wadlow from Western Union Business Solutions.
Heart of the Southwest Local Enterprise Partnership.
Hello, I'm David from the Growth Hub. We're the business support arm for the Heart of Southwest, LEP. our small team advisors can connect you to grants, advice, guidance and other support to help your business to develop and grow. We're delighted to be a headline sponsor of Access to Finance Live 2021.
And StartPoint Finance.
Hi, my name's Tim Jones from StartPoint Finance. We're commercial finance brokers based in the southwest of England, and our job is to find working capital products for our clients from a wide range of lenders. We deal with high street banks, we deal with foreign banks, we deal with building societies, peer-to-peer lenders, block discounters. There's a wide range of potential solutions which we can find for you to help your business. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to another jam-packed, feature-filled hour of Access to Finance Live from the Devon and Plymouth Chamber of Commerce. We are streaming on Facebook Live and also on LinkedIn Live as well. If you're watching us on whatever platform you've decided to do so, please remember to share it with your friends, because we've got lots more information and advice to come in the next hour from a wide range of financial gurus from across the region. So no matter what size of business you're running, you could be an SME like we are, or you could be very well established, or maybe you're studying and you perhaps want to start a business from scratch. This program is going to give you lots of nuggets, little bits of information, some really good takeaways for you. Now, let's get going. And we welcome back for her second appearance on the programme, Allison from Thomas Westcott Chartered Accountants. Hello, Allison. How are you doing? You all right?
Yeah, fine. Yeah, good afternoon. Yeah, good to be back.
I notice here it says that you're a fellow of the ICAEW. You don't look like much of a fellow to me. But I wonder if you could actually...
For a long time, yeah.
Well, yes. Before we go into the details, just tell us a little bit about yourself, because I think we'd like to know what it takes to become a fellow of an organisation like that. You must have studied for it really hard.
Yes. Okay. Well, I'm a chartered accountant. I'm a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales, and actually you become a fellow after 10 years. So it's an automatic thing. If you've been a member for more than 10 years, you automatically be called a fellow. So it all sounds very grand, doesn't it? But yeah, I mean, the actual examinations are hard to get into being an accountant, but certainly worthwhile once you do those first few years. And actually you can branch out and do all sorts of things, as I moved into corporate finance as opposed to staying in sort of mainstream accounting or auditing. So yeah, it's hard work, but it's good fun, and you get to meet loads of fantastic businesses and business people. And certainly in the corporate finance side, you're very much at the sort of positive end of the business, where they're looking to grow or where they're looking to exit their business and realise all their value from all the hard work they put in. So you actually work with clients for quite a long time on quite exciting projects for them. Cool. So that's what attracts me to corporate finance against my auditing and accounting colleagues, which do a good job as well, but it's a different type of skill set, really.
Excellent, nice one. So our first topic of conversation then, debt finance. I don't know much about debt finance, but can you give us a brief overview of how debt finance works and kind of what's the market like for it?
I think we're doing equity finance on this session. Is that not right?
You can do equity finance if you'd like to. Let's move on to equity finance.
Maybe I did debt in the morning, yeah.
Okay, right. So for those of us who want to find out about debt finance, you can rewind and have a look. But equity finance, then, the two sound very similar.
Okay, well, no, they're very different. I mean, equity finance is the way of raising capital through the selling shares in your company, which is very different to debt finance, where you're actually taking out a loan from a funder and have to repay that loan back to them over a period of time with interest. With equity finance, the person putting the money into your company are looking from their return from that investment, from the increase in the value of your company, and actually by selling the shares that they purchased, That's how they get their return from their investment. That's not to say that they won't want to get some money. So that could be a 5 to 7 year investment term, but it doesn't mean they don't want to get some money on the way. So they may want some form of getting some cash out as the business through that period. But it's a very different type of funding. But again, a very useful funding route for businesses, especially it could be from startups, it could be ones who are growing quickly, it could be businesses that want to sell to the management team and get the management team involved, or it could be actually the end of the business life cycle where the business owners want to realise the value and they can actually get private equity and people to come in and buy their business from them.
Are there any particular examples, just to ask, where it's really worked for an organisation, that particular channel?
Yeah, I think for businesses who can grow quickly and need a lot of investment, need a lot of capital, and so they can't raise it through the traditional route. It actually works well because it gives them access to sort of larger pots of money. The other thing that it does, it actually gives them access, if you have a private equity company that comes and invest in you, then they actually can bring other things to the party as well. I mean, there's a myth that they want to run your business, but they don't. But I've seen companies where they've had new access to markets because of the contacts from the private equity business that's come in to help them. Or if it was a business angel, I've got a client who had a business angel came in, they had some good contacts themselves. So it actually helps you broaden out your business and gives you access to either different skills or, as I say, to different markets at the same time as you're accessing the funding you need for your growth.
You mentioned a business angel, and that sounds quite a... go into a little bit more about a business angel for me, because I've not...
You've probably everybody watches Dragon's Den, don't they?
Is that where the term comes from?
Business angel is effectively a private individual, so it could actually be a friend or family could be your business angel, but there are also what I would term professional business angels, which I guess are the guys and girls you see on Dragon's Den. So that would be an individual who will buy shares in your company for a sum of money, and then they will sit there as an investor and actually hope to get their return, at a later date when your business grows or when you eventually sell your business. So business angels are a good route. As I say, you see quite a lot of startup businesses. Their business angel may be, a member of the family or a friend who puts the money in initially. But there are, as I say, professional business angels and as a British Business Angel Network. So that way you're not sort of having to spread it out to lots of people. You've got someone that you maybe know and trust as becomes your business angel, and they can very much add some value in maybe giving some advice themselves from their background in businesses. They tend to be ex-business owners themselves.
So with regards to what we've just been talking about with regards to raising finance, if you don't want to take that particular avenue, are there any other ways that an organisation can go about doing so with the help of Thomas Westcott?
In terms of equity finance, raising equity finance. Yeah, so we can provide routes to the private equity market, and I would say if you're looking for equity finance, you really do need to take advice because it is complex and it's a lot more involved than raising debt finance. So we can actually make introductions to the right either private equity person, or there's quite a lot of what I call family houses, where it could be an individual who set up a company to invest. And so we have a lot of contacts with those people. And interestingly, we're seeing a lot of them coming down into the southwest and calling up, Zooming at the moment, and saying we're interested in businesses in the southwest. So we've got a good network of people we could introduce companies to, and then we would help them through the whole process, because it would be about putting together the good business plan, getting your story together, making sure, we actually do a sort of pre-investment check for you to see that your investment ready. You've got a good management team, you've got robust systems, you've got a good route to market. So there's a few elements you need to get into place before you would actually go into the equity market to try and raise the money. So Thomas Westcott can provide all that advice, do your forecast as well for you, and actually help in the negotiations to get you the right deal.
Obviously, everyone that's watching this live stream right now, if they're running a business, they could be running it from any kind, any type of business in any kind of industry. Are there particular industries where this format will work especially well, or is it something that can be adapted to all sorts?
I think equity finance can be used for all sorts of businesses, but the different types of equity finance will depend on the type of business you've got and what stage in the business life cycle it's in. So if you're a startup business, then that you wouldn't go to a private equity, you go somewhere else. You might go to one of the crowdfunding platforms. So if you look at you hear stories about the crowdfunding platforms where someone's actually raised quite a lot of money to do all sorts of different things. So it's not industry specific, but there needs to be a good opportunity and a good sort of growth plan there, or with some of the smaller businesses, something as sort of a good USP that people can recognise and hang on to.
You mentioned crowdfunding, which is a particularly trendy thing at the moment for organisations to go through. Whilst there are lots of online portals and various ways to start a crowdfunding, campaign, I suppose even taking that route, business owners might find that daunting. Can they still come to an organisation like you and say, are you able to manage this method for us?
Well, what we can do is we can't, it's very regulated selling shares in companies. So the crowdfunding platforms have got all those regulations in place. But what we can do is actually help the client normally with a crowdfunding route, you'd actually put your story together and your business plan together. So we can actually help them produce that and make sure they've covered off all the questions that they're going to be asked. So we can actually help them through that process. The business plan or such application goes on to the crowdfunding network, and then they would manage all of that. But I think it's, the advice is thinking about what type of money, how much money you want to raise, and actually making sure that, say, your business plan and your business case that you put forward is robust. And you'll see, if people watch Dragon's Den, you'll see people come up with a business plan that actually just gets shot down into pieces by the investors.
Yeah.
So that's what we can do. And as I said before, there's a stage where you need to make sure you're investment ready, that you haven't got any sort of skeletons in the cupboard that are suddenly going to pop out, and then that's going to turn the investors off. So
that's probably why the whole thing wouldn't work for me. I've got far too many skeletons in the cupboard.
Sorry?
I said I've got far too many skeletons in the cupboard. Yes. We wouldn't want to go down that route, that avenue with me. You mentioned have you ever thought about doing something like Dragon's Den? I can just picture you relaxed in one of those leather chairs there, saying, I'm sorry, it's not for me.
Yeah, I think I would quite fancy doing it. And there are lots of individuals out there. We've got, clients who are individuals who actually have some funds who are interested in investing in small growing companies in the Southwest. So, I think it's worth getting in contact with your advisor or accountant to see if they've got any clients who may be interested. Because I think there are quite a few Dragon's Den people sitting around in their big leather chairs somewhere in the Southwest.
So before we leave you, are there any other points that you'd like to cover, just to make sure that you've gone through any pertinent pieces of information that you'd just like to pass on to us before we leave you?
Yeah, I guess the other thing, I think the thing about equity finance, I can see it being a growth area for businesses. So I think, in the past people said, I don't want to take equity and give away control of my business. You don't have to give away control of your business. So the thing I'd say is be open-minded to it. It can actually bring benefits. And you're much better to have, say 50% of a business that's worth a lot, worth something than 100% of something that's worth nothing. So I think don't get caught up with the myth of giving away. You're not giving away equity. You're actually investing with somebody else and actually helping to move your business forward.
And I suppose actually contacting somebody like yourself in order to facilitate that, you're going to take an awful lot of weight off people's shoulders. You're going to take an awful lot of stress away, and you're the friendly face in between, aren't you?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, so we can have we can take some of that stress, as you say, away from them, and actually, we've been through it a number of times with other clients. We know what the hurdles are. We know what to expect. And then we can be the bad guys as well and do the hard negotiations, because the business owner may have to work with that person who's investing. So actually having negotiations is quite difficult, and that's where we can provide that buffer, so that actually we can be the bad guys and do the difficult negotiations to get the best deal for them.
I can never imagine you being a bad person. How can we get in contact with you if we want to find out more and reach out to you at Thomas Westcott?
Yeah, well, I suppose if you look at the Thomas Westcott website, we've got a full website there which gives all the services that we offer within the firm. There's a page about corporate finance, and my contact details on there, so email or mobile. Very happy to speak to anybody really and see if we can help in any way.
Marvellous. Thank you very much for joining us on Access to Finance Live. Thank you.
Okay, no, thank you. Great to be here.
Okay, let's prepare our next speaker. Since he appeared on Access to Finance Live in the last hour, we have been quite literally inundated with fan mail for this gentleman. We say hello and welcome back to Tim Jones from Startpoint Finance. You're right there, Tim.
Yeah, I'm back for more.
Yeah, well, yes. Actually, Tim, you're obviously hot property because your camera's a little bit on the foggy side. Come and get a bit intimate and just like give us a wipe down, because we'd like to see you nice and clearly. There we go. See, it's live, isn't it? He does it very well, yes. Lovely. Well, you're still a bit foggy, but we're just going to have to go with it. Never mind, eh? Tim, it says here in your biography, you believe in transactional karma.
I believe in karma in life. I think if you do the right thing in the right ways, in the end, life treats you right. So from a business point of view, we'll work on a case and we will come up with some solutions. But if at the 11th hour Aunt Mary comes up with the money, fantastic. Because if that's whatever's right for the business from a funding perspective, that's good for us. It's because it's about reputation, doing the right thing in the right way, and your reputation, especially in the Southwest, it follows you around.
Well, yes, indeed. In terms of the current financial scene, there's a lot of chatter, a lot of discussion, and a lot of, I suppose, confusion, it's fair to say, around the government recovery loan scheme. Are you able to break down for us how that loan scheme works and try and dispel some of the myths and some of the fears that people might have regarding it?
Okay, so the reality of the government loan scheme is it will be interpreted differently by different lenders, and there will be new lenders coming into play, because we've only got 19 at the moment, and we're going to end up with probably over 100. And I suppose the question for me is, if that doesn't work, what are other ways of raising funding for your business? Allison she's really good at articulating the equity side of it. But we are in a situation where there's a wall of money out there that needs to be invested. Interest rates are absolutely tiny at the moment. So if you're going to make a return on your money, if you're a fund, you've got to lend it to somebody else at an interest rate. And there are hundreds and hundreds of funders that will look at supporting businesses, because UK businesses are a pretty good risk. And providing you can articulate what you want, what it's for, and how you can pay it back, you can access funds through a variety of different ways. And the recovery loan scheme is supposed to be there to support viable businesses where there is insufficient security. And I'm afraid in the assessment, the civil scheme that's just finished, there's only just over 40% acceptance rate. So there's a lot of businesses that needed funds that weren't able to access it via that route. Sadly, I think the recovery loan scheme is probably going to have a similar, if not even a lower acceptance rate. So you've got to look at other alternatives, and we can help do that, because it's about unpicking what the funds are needed for, what's the best financial products to suit that, to get those funds, and then who out of the hundreds do you approach? And most importantly, how do you articulate it to those funders, knowing what they want to see, so that you get a good offer, or ideally a few offers, and you can pick the best one.
So when you say articulating the message to potential funders or investors or whatever the situation may be, that obviously means you're going to have to kind of get under the hood of the business really and find out quite a bit about them. What sort of things would you need to know in order to communicate a business's objectives?
Absolutely. So our job is to ask the right questions to get the right information from our clients. Depending on the level of the sophistication of the business, if the business has got a finance director who's keeping management accounts, doing projections, then that makes our job much easier. Or if there's an external accountant like Thomas Westcott that are fulfilling that function within a business, that enables us to give a far better explanation to the underwriters that are human beings. So it's about convincing another human being that this proposal that you're putting to them has merit and is worth making an offer on, and importantly, is worth making an offer on at the best possible rate. And it's like anything, it's understanding that process and understanding the idiosyncrasies of the different lenders helps you articulate properly to them what the client needs.
But you did, if I may just pick up on, you did say about a company that has a financial director, but I mean, SMEs, they're not going to have that kind of structure. Probably many of them aren't even going to have a board in place. It could be a sole trader. Is what you're saying exclusively for bigger companies, or can you facilitate this for smaller firms?
No, most companies in the Southwest don't have a finance director. That's absolutely true. And also, I think most business owners or operators, they're doing all sorts of things. They're working really hard in the business, and they haven't got time necessarily to look at the financial aspects of their business. Most of them, frankly, are managing it using their bank facility to see how much cash is in the bank or not in the account. So you do need help, and the first step often is to talk to a professional that can help you identify the areas of information you need to get together to be able to give a coherent argument. I always look at it as if you're in a pub and somebody comes up to you and says, "Well, I've got this proposition," and then explain it to you. Would you be happy to put your hand in your pocket and hand over 20 quid? And if you've done an eloquent explanation that would say, "Yeah, that's a good investment," that is what you're trying to do from a business perspective, obviously on a larger scale.
You're kind of talking about the old the elevator pitch thing there, aren't you? You've got 60 seconds.
It is an elevator pitch, but it's a bit more sophisticated because it's an elevator pitch backed up with facts. And often that is the time to reach out to your accountant, because the accountant will have that ability to get the right information in the right format quickly, leaving the business owner to carry on running the business. So it is difficult, I think, for a business owner by themselves without experience to actually go and get that finance and frankly get it in the right way at the right cost. And there's also an assumption that the bank that you bank with for 20, 30, 40 years or whatever is going to give you their best offer. And it's true that we will organise an offer from the bank that the company's banking with that's better than the original offer they would have given to their client, and they pay us for doing it. How crazy is that? But that's about having the understanding of the market.
It is a crazy situation, but another crazy situation for some people might be the whole concept of taking out a loan, for example. People might not find it, might not be comfortable with it, or actually, come to think of it, they might have been turned down for taking out such a thing in the first place. They might not be able to do loans. So there must be some other creative ways that you can go about getting financial support for a business, aren't there?
Absolutely. There are lots of different products, and there are lots of different loan products as well. And we have scenarios where lender A, lender B, lender C, lender D will not make an offer, but lender E will, because their risk criteria is different, their pricing is different, and it's about getting the best possible offer out of the market to your client, which is most viable for them. But if you're not into loan, you could be into refinancing assets that you own. So you carry on using them, but they are in effect security for working capital that comes back into the business. You carry on using them. You pay off that advance over a period of time, and you own them at the end.
So is that like those TV ads you see for, you know, when you're 120 and you need to get some more money, you can attach something to your house in order to release funds, but this is like a thing but in the business version. Is that how I understand how that works?
It's a similar sort of concept, and in fact you can do that concept with a loan as well. So secured loans, second charge loans are going to go through the roof, because if you've only got a 40% acceptance rate of recovery loans, and there's what happens to the other 60% of the businesses, their need for the working capital doesn't go away. They still need it. They still have that requirement. So how's it satisfied? So it could be using other security. The best security, if you're doing a business-to-business transaction, is the invoice. And then you're into a whole range of invoice finance, confidential factoring. There are specific products that are very light touch in terms of guarantee, light touch in terms of interaction with the clients, right through to really quite sophisticated multi-million facilities. And it's about navigating your way through that, understanding what the solution is for your problem, what the right products are, and then getting the offers out of the lenders that are appropriate for your risk profile, having articulated it as eloquently as you possibly can. Simple.
Just scrolling back from that sentence that you just gave and taking out two words, invoice finance.
Yeah.
I've not really come across, how does that work, invoice finance in a nutshell?
So if you think about security, we talked about houses earlier. The problem with the houses security is you've got to, if there's a cataclysmic disaster, you've got to release the funds out of the house. You've got to go through all the process of which frankly never works. But invoices are the closest thing to cash, provided they're raised correctly. You sent an invoice because you've done some work or delivered some goods. That will turn to cash at some point. The problem is that everybody's holding on to everybody else's cash. And the bigger the entity you're dealing with, normally, the longer they'll take to pay you. So you can be looking at 120 days, even longer, before you get paid for that work you've done. But the invoice that you've raised against that work, provided the work is right, that's practically cash. So you will have funders that will release cash against that invoice the second after you've raised it, automatically using software. It's like a flexible overdraft, and loads of businesses use it. And because most of it's confidential, nobody knows. But it's
furthermore, that's going to alleviate a lot of cash flow stress for certain firms who have like a long time from the moment where they issue the invoice to the moment they get paid. In that situation, 120 days, we know it happens even longer. So this could help smooth out all of that.
Absolutely. Because the firm may well they've got to pay their employees, they've got to pay for the materials that they've used, and even in areas that were quite difficult, so construction, which is an industry that's done really well down here, it's sadly it's common for people to be paid quite late because it's quite a difficult industry to work out in terms of the actual invoice. Historically, it's been quite difficult to fund, but even construction now is becoming easier to do invoice finance with, and we're doing quite a lot of it currently with clients because they need a solution, and it's the most cost-effective and lower cost than the recovery loan would be for sure.
Excellent. Tim, thank you very much for joining us. But before we leave you here, we've all been admiring your... Pick up your phone and give us some close-ups of these shirts behind you, because we've all been admiring these. And you mentioned that you're a big supporter of sport. So point out your top 3 favourites that you've got there.
So you can't do favourites with local.
Oh
teams.
No!
I'll get absolutely lynched.
All right then.
So we're into football, rugby, cricket, ladies hockey, ladies netball. The shirt I like the most though is I was lucky enough to row for Devon 2019.
Well, you personally?
I'm into gig rowing, and that's obviously there's a United shirt and an England rugby shirt, but it's the Devon gig rowing shirt I love the most.
Nice, awesome. Tim, how can we get in contact with you about gig rowing and various other things?
So website, and hopefully it'll be less cloudy than this camera.
Excellent. All right. Thank you very much for joining us on Access to Finance Live, Tim. Awesome job. Thank you.
Thank you.
So you've been sending in your comments, you've been liking and you've been sharing and you've been subscribing and you've been hitting the thumbs up button. I hope, but we'll find out with Jasmine over in social media.
Thanks, Paul. I can't believe we're on our second hour already. Time flies when you're talking about finance, eh? Lisa Hartwell on LinkedIn says, it never crossed my mind that your accountant or advisor could put you in contact with potential investors. It makes sense, but sometimes you don't see the obvious solutions and routes. Thanks. Thanks, Lisa. That's what today's event is all about. We also have Allison Hernandez, the Police and Crime Commissioner for Devon and Cornwall, who's posted on LinkedIn, this is great. I like the term business angel. Our taxpayers are mine, so I have to show them return on their investment by lowering crime and increasing police officer numbers. Thank you, Allison. We have a couple more. Malcolm Bennett enjoyed watching Alison Watts today on #Finance Live, navigating the maze of equity finance. Georgie Porter also says, thanks for explaining Invoice Finance today, Tim. Loving the expo. Thank you so much for all of your comments today, guys. And if you have just tuned in, this is how you can get in touch.
Send us your comments by adding them to the conversation on our Facebook Live page. Or tweet us using the hashtag #FinanceLive. Follow the Devon and Plymouth Chamber of Commerce on Twitter @chamber_Devon.
And we've still got more financial fun, yes, and I do mean financial fun still to come. Just to say, if you are watching us on LinkedIn, then do make sure you subscribe to the Devon and Plymouth Chamber of Commerce's LinkedIn page by clicking that subscribe button. And likewise, if you're watching us on Facebook Live, do the same, because after this event, our editing team are going to be going through all the video footage that we've got and taking out little nuggets of good top tips and advice ready for you to rewatch on all those social media platforms, and we'll probably be pushing it out on Twitter as well. Up next, I'm going to hand you over to the delightful Rachel Marshall.
Time to grab yourself a cuppa. Access to Finance Live continues after the break. The Devon and Plymouth Chamber of Commerce Golf Day is to be hosted by Borrington Park Golf Club on Wednesday the 30th of June in association with Fraser Nash Consultancy and supporting Jeremiah's Journey. Show off your skills to colleagues while you connect with other businesses and maybe even win a prize. Your day includes bacon rolls before you tee off and a fabulous barbecue once you've sunk your last putt. The day is rounded off with a charity auction and raffle. Entry per team of 4 is just £190. To book or to sponsor a hole, visit the events page at devonchamber.co.uk.
In Conversation With, the new talk show from Devon and Plymouth Chamber of Commerce.
Hello there, I'm Stuart Elford, Chief Executive of Devon and Plymouth Chamber of Commerce, and welcome to another podcast edition of In Conversation With. I suppose it's not an interview, it's a chat, isn't it?
I don't know. It could become an interview later. Keep looking into the eyes.
Keep looking into the eyes. Is it true you really were in a shower scene advert for a famous soap brand?
Do you know what? Sadly it is, but I have no regret.
Managed to smash my face up, but everybody is kind.
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh, but
no, that's fine.
You will always be known as the man who had his hand up Gil's honey bun.
We really do argue, and I don't mean just, professionally, I would say unprofessionally as well.
So it's completely at odds with the 2 years training I'd had just learning how to drive a warship, where you're coached every step of the way.
People introduced me as, this chap's been in business 30 years, and the first thing he said to me was, you've done well to last 30 days, let alone 30 years.
Meeting, developing new relationships with new people.
This is a challenge, but maybe there's opportunity here as well.
It's when you get your first client and the first bit of money comes into the bank.
So the truth is, you don't really switch off. I don't really switch off. But I'm not doing this on my own.
It just really cracked open my head about what could I achieve.
If we are better at telling our story, we'll inspire more people, we'll attract more visitors, we'll attract more investments.
We are a great place for industry. We're a great place to bring up a family. We're a great place to visit. We're a great place to stay.
Lots of wagtail poop everywhere and the car alarm going off.
Well, I can't think of a better way to end this interview than talking about bird poop. But no.
Yes.
In Conversation With, the new talk show from Devon and Plymouth Chamber of Commerce. Search for Devon Chamber in Conversation With on Apple iTunes podcasts, Spotify and more.
Good afternoon, I'm Rachel Marshall. This is Devon and Plymouth Chamber. Welcome to our Access to Finance Live 2021. This afternoon we welcome the lovely Christina from Western Union Business Solutions. Christina, hi, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. Oh, you're there.
No, I am. I'm behind you.
I was just wondering, you're behind me. It's like a pantomime already. So Western Union, Christina, you've got over 500,000 locations around the globe. And tell us a little bit about yourselves, please.
Yeah, sure. I mean, when we say Western Union, by the way, I like the fact you've got a nod to our colours there. So yellow and black are our colours.
Got it sorted, don't you worry.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Now, when we say Western Union, most people have heard of us, but they're familiar with our retail branches. So sending money to friends and family overseas. The side of the business that we work on, Western Union Business Solutions, is purely for businesses. So import exporters, people with international offices or payrolls that they're having to pay. And we just help those businesses to save time and money on their payments.
Okay, fantastic. And I think we've got a VT as well to play. Is that right, guys?
We've got one of the biggest questions that we get from our customers is what's happening with the currency markets. So we've got George Vesey, who's one of the currency strategists, who's going to give a bit of a market overview as to what's happening in the markets at the moment.
Great, thank you.
Hello, I'm George Vesey, currency and macro strategist for Western Union Business Solutions. And my role is studying macroeconomic trends and geopolitical developments, as well as technical analysis to help businesses manage their currency risk and help make those important financial decisions in relation to trading internationally. Firstly, a quick look at what I'll be covering today. And before jumping into the market and macro trends, I'll be just addressing some key trade themes as well to keep in mind or to watch over the course of the next few months and years, before then going into the macro and market outlook and before finishing with some currency analysis. Okay, so before moving into the main presentation, a few disclaimers first. There are many themes and factors driving financial markets, lots to be aware of in the wider space, which is why I've included this slide to begin with. Of course, the pandemic, the vaccine race and the unlocking of economies is a major focus, but these other trends are also important to be aware of. So the pandemic has also exposed the vulnerability of the global supply chains and the severe impact trade disruptions can have on company profits. We've seen soaring shipping costs, for example, increased delivery times, of course, the Suez Canal blockage recently, of course, and that's expected to continue impacting world trade through bottlenecks in supply chains. Secondly, we have the monetary policy and its impact on currency. And I will touch on this briefly in the presentation, but not in great detail. Essentially, the unprecedented easing of policy via interest rate cuts and massive stimulus by central banks and governments that's been implemented not only to stimulate growth, but to provide a bridge to the post-COVID world, and how this is impacted on the bond markets recently. We've seen a rebound in growth expectations and inflation, and that's been reflected by the rise in government bond yields globally, which has caused a bit of turmoil in FX markets as well. And of course, geopolitical tensions can't be ignored either. The battle for dominance between the US and China is ongoing. The escalating tensions between Russia and Ukraine, with Europe and the US watching closely. And of course, the rising tensions recently in Northern Ireland, partly as a result of the trade border down the Irish Sea due to Brexit. And again, back to trade and this possible slowdown in hyper-globalization triggered because of the pandemic. It could lead to a partial shift of global trade to the regional level, and that could create potential for for a development of multiple regional reserve currencies, and that might challenge the dominance of the US dollar in international payments. So lots to think about, lots to consider going forward, but of course the focus today is going to be on the economic recovery from this crisis, specifically the UK, and how sterling's valuation might be impacted in the future. So this next slide here clearly breaks down the current situation and the impact of the pandemic on economies and markets. This first chart on the left shows a devastating number of total cases globally and the rolling 7-day average of new cases, which peaked in January, as you can see, but unfortunately is on the rise once again from a global standpoint. In the middle here, this chart, we see a clear inverse correlation, a strong one at that, and that's showing that the stricter lockdown measures in a country have resulted in a sharper GDP decline in that country. And the third chart here shows the market impacts that we've seen. So the orange bar represents the percentage fall of the US stock index, the S&P 500. The black bar represents how many days it took to fall. And the green bar represents how many days it took to return back to pre-pandemic levels. So during the pandemic, it took 23 days for the S&P 500 to fall 33%, but only 97 days to recoup those losses. You compare that to the financial crisis back in 2008, 2009, where it took 774 days to recover to pre-crisis levels. So this market mayhem quickly turned to euphoria once central banks and governments provided huge sums of support to and liquidity to financial markets. Moving on to this next slide, we see why we've witnessed such a rebound in financial markets and as well, and the strong start to 2021. So here on the left is the most recent global growth data forecast from the OECD, and you can see that bar chart on the left there shows the massive GDP growth rebound expected across different areas of the world. And two standout points for me here are, one, that the US economic growth outlook is expected to outperform the rest of the world by about 1% this year, and it's actually double what was forecast at the back end of last year. And two, the UK economy is expected to outperform the world, the US and Europe in 2022. And although that 2022 forecast is slightly less impressive growth than this year, usually economies grow 1.5% in a year. So this 4.7% GDP growth is still, or that expected, is still huge. Now, taking your eyes over to the table on the right there, you can see that growth forecasts in general have been upgraded since the December OECD report, including world output. But as I mentioned earlier, the key standout again here is the upgrade in US GDP growth. And this is largely thanks to not only the strong vaccine rollout in the US, but the massive, huge stimulus relief packages by the Biden administration, the multi-trillion-dollar long-term economic program as well that's on the horizon. This next slide focuses specifically on the UK economy then, and it's using the data from the ONS and the latest forecasts from the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, and that reveals that UK GDP growth in 2021 is actually forecast at 5.3%. So an upgrade thanks to the UK's swift and successful vaccine rollout, as I mentioned at the beginning, and this is certainly relative to its peers anyway. So it means that the path out of this economic crisis is becoming increasingly visible. But one of the major talking points is how this recovery is going to come about. Of course, the lifting of restrictions continues. We've seen non-essential retail, hospitality reopen. And given the fact that 80% of the UK GDP is made up of the services sector, this is a critical step in the right direction for the UK economic rebound. However, much of this rebound does depend on consumer confidence, the spending. Are Brits going to go out, splash their cash? Well, according to estimates, around 180 billion additional pounds have been saved by UK households during this pandemic. The UK household saving ratio there on the chart shows you that it hit an all-time high last year, 25.9%. Although this has slipped back to 16%, which is where it is at the moment, it's still twice the proportion, or nearly that, or twice of the proportion of income that's usually saved, as you can see from the chart here. So there's a real debate, though, as to how much of this money is going to be actually spent. So some, like the chief economist at the Bank of England, think that the economy is like a coiled spring at the moment, and that consumers will just go on a spending spree once everything is unlocked. And we'll see that potentially over the next few weeks with hospitality reopening, as I said, hairdressers reopening. And we might see that. But there is an argument, or one of the main cases against this is that poorer households haven't enjoyed the same accumulation of savings as the richer households. And the poorer households are normally the more responsive ones to changes in financial conditions compared to the rich. So it might mean that we're not going to see this pent-up demand, or consumer demand, actually be unleashed into the market. And the other factor is, or element, is this fear factor, whereby consumers are more cautious to spend their money in case of further lockdowns in the future, or risk to their incomes in the future as well. Now, the final section of the discussion is currency, of course. Now that all these developments have unfolded, how have currencies been impacted? Well, as I mentioned at the start, there are multitude of factors that drive exchange rates, drive currencies, but the vaccine trade has been a popular one, and the UK is a clear front runner in the entire Western vaccine race, which is one of the main reasons why the pound did have such a fantastic start to 2021. Ultimately, the market was saying there's going to be a relative growth rate differential because of the vaccination differential over the next few months, and that's why we saw the pound outperform many currencies, like the euro, for example. As I've pointed out on this chart here, we saw the sterling advance significantly against euro once the UK vaccine rollout gathered pace. But that difference in pace started to tail off at the back end of last month. And in fact, Germany doubled its pace of jabs last week, for example. And thus that orange line is starting to peter off, it's starting to invert, i.e. Europe's vaccine rollout speed is starting to speed up. So lo and behold, we saw the pound's value start to weaken as well in line with this development. We saw a 2% fall in the value of the pound against the euro just last week. Now, again, this wasn't the only catalyst, of course. As I mentioned earlier, the violence in Northern Ireland that added to sterling's woes because of this political upheaval in relation to Brexit. We're also getting a bit of chatter about the potential breakup of the United Kingdom because of Brexit and a Scottish independence referendum that's potentially on the horizon. These kind of factors could grow to haunt the pound for some time. So we did see sterling fall across the board last week for many reasons, but in relation to the vaccine slowdown, I think that certainly had an impact on the value of the pound. Interestingly, looking at the shorter term, despite its weak start to this month, the seasonality study here suggests that the pound usually performs strongly this time of year, though, driven in part by the new UK tax year and the corporate dividend repatriation of overseas income. So are we going to see a revival of sterling this month? Is it going to outperform in April as it usually does? We'll have to wait and see, but a successful economic unlock could provide the backdrop to this potential sterling bull run that could be on the cards. But even if this doesn't transpire, as you see from this table here, sterling is still in a strong position when we compare it to historical averages. So as you can see, the pound is in a historically favourable position against numerous currencies. Some standouts for me here include being around 7% higher than the 2-year average rate versus the US dollar there, and 5% above the 5-year average rate. And against the euro, despite the pullback of 2% last week, is still a strong start to 2021 for sterling against the euro, as you can see, around 3% higher year to date. But what this table also highlights is this improving market mood that we've seen over the past 12 months or so. And it's because of this anticipated economic rebound across the board. And that's why the pound hasn't appreciated as much against those pro-cyclical or growth currencies like the Canadian dollar and Australian dollar, for example, because these currencies have benefited from the rise in commodity prices because of the expected global economic rebound and rebounded demand for commodities. Whereas you compare that to the safe haven currencies like the Japanese yen, as you can see at the bottom there, the pound has been flying against the yen. This is because it's a safe haven currency and it's been dumped because risk appetite has been elevated so much. But as ever, markets are unpredictable and volatile, and black swan events like COVID-19 and even like the Suez Canal the other week, they can change investor sentiment in a flash. And so that's why it's important to be prepared for the worst case scenario, but also having a plan that's flexible to make the most of favourable market conditions. Thanks for listening and have a good day.
Thanks to George and the team for putting that presentation together. There's an awful lot of information there, Christina. Obviously, there's internationally trading at the moment. A lot of people are feeling uneasy about it. There's so much going on. We've got Brexit, we've got viruses, we've got independence happening here, there and everywhere. What should people do? Is now a good time?
Yeah, I mean, the thing with all of the challenges that we've faced over the past 12 months, and further back than that, businesses are trying to succeed. We've always had hurdles, and particularly in the UK, we're good at finding solutions to carry on. From our side of things, international trade presents an additional challenge around currency volatility, which can present huge challenges for businesses. The cost of your imports or exports can vary massively month to month, and that's where someone like us can come in and help businesses to sort of weather that storm.
Okay, fantastic. Also, just finally, Western Union, how can they help Devon and Plymouth Chamber members specifically? What can they do there?
Yeah, of course. So we have an arrangement with the Chamber whereby opening an account with us is free and doesn't obligate anybody to use us anyway. But with the Chamber, we've removed all fees. So occasionally there are some circumstances where a business may have to pay a small fee to make a transfer. As a Chamber member, you don't have to do that. So really the advice would be have a chat with us, because if we're going to save you some money and help you protect your business, it doesn't cost you anything to have a chat with us to find out.
Absolutely, fantastic. And how does someone get in touch with you?
Yeah, either speak to your contacts at the Chamber and they can put us in contact directly, or you can email us at partners@westernunion.com.
Wonderful. Thanks ever so much for your time, Christina.
Thank you.
Let's check in with Jasmine and see what's happening on the social media front.
Thanks, Rachel. It's time for our last round of comments in the social media corner, so let's take a look. Ian Hall said, interesting presentation from Western Union. I work in the engineering industry and I'm a new member of the Chamber and interested in having a chat. So we can definitely work that out for you, Ian. Dom Hunt says, loving the event today. I've not seen one like it before. #Finance Live. Rebecca Hamilton, great event today from Devon Chamber, #Finance Live. Looking forward to attending future events. We're looking forward to seeing you there, Rebecca, and we will give you an update of all of the events that we've got coming up this year. Thank you everyone for getting in touch today. If we haven't got round to your comments during the event, then we'll be sure to get back to you after the show. Now back to the studio.
Send us your comments by adding them to the conversation on our Facebook Live page, or tweet us using the hashtag #FinanceLive. Follow the Devon and Plymouth Chamber of Commerce on Twitter at @chamber_Devon.
Thanks, Jasmine. Hasn't she been fantastic? Really, really good on that one. So now we're welcoming back David Hind from the Growth Hub. I'm just checking where he is. There he is. Hi, David. How are you?
I'm here. Good afternoon.
Are you okay? So this is quite a mouthful, isn't it, really? Heart of the Southwest Local Enterprise Partnership Growth Hub. It's a bit of a tongue twister. Sounds as though you cover quite a bit. What can you tell us?
Yeah, it really is. It really is a long name, and I suppose that's because we cover a diverse geography of Devon, Somerset, Plymouth, and Torby. But if you type in Growth Hub Devon or Growth Hub Plymouth into your search engine, we'll come up top. And yeah, our Growth Hub is government funded. We're totally free, so a free, impartial business inquiry service. Advisors on hand to speak to you, and we can introduce you to grants, advice, guidance, whatever's out there that might be there to help your business.
Okay. How can businesses access it, David?
Yeah, probably the simplest way is to go into our website. So either type in the long Heart Southwest name or put in your search engine, like I mentioned. And right in the middle is a get in touch form where you can fill in some details about your business, say what you're looking for, and then one of our advisors will follow up with you. Or by all means, give us a call on.
I was going to say sometimes it's just nice to pick up. It's nice sometimes just to pick up the phone and speak to a human, especially right now, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and yeah, very happy to take calls. We take lots and lots every single day. The telephone number, just as if you want it, is 03456 047 047. We'd love to hear from you.
Fantastic, thank you. There's an awful lot going on at the moment about different COVID grants and loans and everything that are available. Can you go into a little bit more detail for us, please, David?
Yeah, sure. So certainly, if I look at some of the main grants, first of all, if you've been eligible for some of the lockdown or restriction grants I've run previously, you'll probably know where to look probably for most of the local grants, and that's through your local council, local authority. Each has got a COVID business support page with all the details about the lockdown and restriction grants that are up and running now. We've also got a COVID business support page on our Growth Hub website. So if you go onto our homepage, you can click on and see a whole list of guidance and the grants that are out there, and actually pick up the phone to the team and they'll navigate you to the right one for you. I'll just mention a couple of options,
great,
if I may. Yeah, so right now there's Restart grants available. They're quite new, following on from the lockdown restriction grants we've seen previously. They're particularly targeted at non-essential retail, accommodation, leisure, gyms, people like that.
Okay.
If you're a ratepayer and fit the eligibility criteria, you might get a one-off grant of £6,000, say, for non-essential retail, or up to £18,000, say, for hospitality.
Those are fantastic figures, aren't they? You know, if they're available, that's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's well worth looking into. So go to your local council pages, as I've mentioned. So if you're in Plymouth, you can look up Restart grants. They've got a web page there that tells you all about them, all about the eligibility, and there's an online form to fill out. Please don't try and phone your local council about this unless you're specifically asked to. They're getting bombarded, as you might expect it. Go online, use the web pages, and you'll get all the information there, or give us a call and we'll point you in the right direction.
Sounds like you've got quite a lot of it covered. Amazing. And what are your top tips on seeking funding and grants, David?
Yeah, I suppose the first thing to say really is speak to your bank, speak to your accountant. We've heard from brilliant speakers today. You're very lucky through this event and through the Devon Chamber. You're introduced to financial advisors, respected organisations. Go and speak to them, seek that professional advice. If you have identified a grant or we find one for you, do your preparation. Okay, make sure you've got a business plan in place. Really think about what you want to do, what you need money for. Think about your cash flow. We've got some free templates and guides that can help you.
I think that's really useful as well, because sometimes you might have a great business idea, or you might be sort of a certain place in your business, but you just need some guidance about how to move it forward, or maximise, or like Christine was saying just now, we have to be innovative. We have to keep moving. So it's really good to know that there's all this expertise and guidance out there.
Yeah, absolutely. It just put your plans into place. You should never completely change what you want to do to fit a grant. It's really about finding the grant or fund that's right to you. And actually, that's the same with any type of investment. Really, it's got to be right for all parties and all sides. And that's why I would encourage, do your preparation, have those early conversations, get your paperwork in place, and go from there.
Amazing. David, we've had a lovely time with you this morning. Thanks ever so much. Is there a little nugget that you'd like to leave with us?
Yeah, just to go on our Growth Hub website, take a look. We've got a finance page there. There's lots of links to places like the British Business Bank and Institute of Chartered Accountants and the Chamber and elsewhere. Go and take a look, have a scout around and see what could be right for you. Thank you very much. Thanks
ever so much, David. Take care. Okay, that's it. So our very first Access to Finance Live from Devon and Plymouth Chamber of Commerce. Thank you to all the exhibitors, all the production team here at Fresh Air Studios. Don't forget to give us your feedback. We would love to hear from you. But most of all, thanks for watching. Take care.